written a book about being a coal miner. It's about this man who goes down into a mine and he sees some coal. So he grabs a hold of the coal and he throws it in a trolley, and the trolley wheels away down a long dark tunnel, and he never sees it again. That's my story. It's an extremely short story, but it's also extremely boring. I fell asleep the first time I read it. In fact, I took it to the publisher and he said it was one of the most boring stories he had ever read. He said it lacked excitement and sex. So I have added this to my story. And now a man goes down into a mine and he sees some coal. But beside the coal is 3 naked women, Stella, Bernice, and Marguerite. So he grabs a hold of the coal and the 3 naked women and he throws them in a trolley, and the trolley wheels away down a long dark tunnel, and he never sees them again. Now this helped my story immensely. I couldn't put it down the first time I read it. It was so exciting. My next story is going to be called A Million Naked Women. It's a mining story. That's what I like about being an author. You can put in as many naked women as you like.
I got a telegram from Ben, my brother, and he said, "Come home, Pop's gone." I caught the train and went home to sit in the parlor with the body of my father. And when everybody had gone to bed, I had my last conversation with him. "Pop, we won the football game. I caught the winning pass. And when we returned on the train, they lifted me onto their shoulders and carried me all the way back to campus. And we sang and shouted and carried on. Oh, Papa, why did you have to go and die?" My father never feared death. He always had his eye on perfection. And now, I know he was at home. But I'll always see him up there in the bleachers, cheering for me. I'm glad that Pop was my father. There's no better than him.
This has been quite a night for me. I've been listening here, hearing all those funny, charming stories about me. You know, I had an aunt once who used to think she was a poached egg. It's true. Just on odd days. She used to carry this brown mat around with her all the time. That was her toast. She used to sit in the middle of that for hours, and nobody was allowed to step on her toast. I guess it was her way of making sure that, well, nobody ever got close to her. And it seems that these past few years that I've been carrying my own brown mat around with me. You've all been a great audience, but I'd like to take this time to have a chat with my son, Judd. We don't know each other very well, but that's not your fault. I never let anybody get close to me. I had this crazy idea a few weeks ago that I'd like to leave you with something. And now that I've been sitting here listening, I figured out what that one thing was. If I could leave you with that one thing, it would be the passion for anything or anybody to get as much as you can out of life. Judd, I miss so much out of life. Don't ever miss anything out of life.
The train's slowing down, Donna Mae. It's time to move out and go up that gangplank and get on that ship that's going to take us to Europe in a world war. I'm scared, Donna Mae. I've come across this country for the first time before and loved it. I've never seen anything like this country before. I've never met people like you before. It was a pleasure meeting you, especially you, Donna Mae. And I know that there are parts of this country that I've missed, that I'd like to come back and get a car and get you and drive around. I've never seen New England. I've never seen the South. I've never seen anything but Utah. And now, maybe I never will. But I'm going to fight for this country. For me, for you, Donna Mae, and for all of you. But please don't tell me how I feel, because you don't know. I'll miss you, Donna Mae. I'll miss all of you. And I hope that I return to see all of you again. I'm going. I'm going.
It takes many incidents to build a wall between two men, brick by brick. Sometimes you're not aware of the building of the wall, sometimes you are. They're not always strong enough or willing enough to kick it down. It starts very early, as it did with my father and me, very early, and it becomes a pattern that's so hard to break until the wall is made of strong, sound brick and mortar. Stronger than anything my father ever built. Time would not level it, only death. I don't know if my father ever remembered one such incident. He never spoke of it to me. But I often thought it was the emotional cornerstone of the wall between us. He rushed out the door that day, down to the schoolyard. The first game he had ever been to. I hadn't reminded my father of the game. I was afraid he'd show up and embarrass me. 12 years old and ashamed of my own man. Ashamed of his dialect, his dirty overalls, his bruised fingers with fingernails lined with dirt, his teeth, yellow as old ivory, and most of all his lunch pail, that symbol of the working man. No, I wanted a doctor for a father, a lawyer, at least a fireman, not a cook. That wasn't good enough for me. I deserved better than an old, dirty, low-class father. That one day, I remember stepping up to bat. It was the last of the night. The game was tied. There was no one on base. And I looked over and saw my father sitting up on the bench along third base. He grinned and waved and gestured to the man next to him, but I pretended not to see him. I turned to face the pitcher, and angry at myself, I swung hard at the first pitch. There was a hollow crack, and the ball shot low over the shortstop's head for a double. Our next batter bunted, and I made third. He was only a few feet away now, my father, but I still refused to acknowledge him. Instead, I turned and faced the catcher, pretending concentration. And when the ball bounced between the catcher's legs and home screen, I slid home to win the game. And there he was, jumping up and down, excited as hell. And as the crowd broke up and our team stampeded off the field, I looked back once again to the wire fence and saw my father sitting on the empty bench. He was slumped over, alone, staring at the cinders between his feet, just staring. I don't know how long he stayed there, maybe till dark, but I do know he never again came down to see me play. And that night at home, he never spoke of the game or even being there. He just went to bed unusually early.
Talking about life, Mama. You always telling me to see life like it is. Well, I laid in there on my back today and I finally figured it out. Life's just like it is. Who gets and who don't get. Mama, you know, it's all divided up. Life is. Sure enough, between the takers and the tookers. I figured it out finally. Some of us always get tooken. People like Willie Harris, they don't never get tooken. And you know why the rest of us do? Because we're mixed up. We're mixed up bad. We get to looking around for the wrong and the rights of things. And we worry about it, and we cry about it, and we stay up nights trying to figure out the wrong and the rights all the time. And all the time, man, them takers is out there operating. Just taking and taking. Willie Harris, shoot, don't even count. He don't even count in the scheme of things. But I'll say one thing for old Willie Harris. He's taught me something. He's taught me to keep my eye on what counts in this world. Don't cry, Mama. Understand that white man's gonna walk through that door able to write a check for more money than we ever had. It's important to him. And I'm gonna have him. What's the matter with y'all? I didn't make this world, it was given to me this way. Hell yes, I want some yachts. I want to be able to hang some gold around my neck. I'm a man. Ain't I supposed to wear some gold in this world? Somebody tell me who decides on what man wears gold in this world. I tell you I'm a man, and I think I should wear some gold in this world. I feel fine, Mom. I'm gonna look in the eyes and say, well, Mr. Linder, that's your neighborhood out there. You got the right to have it like you want it. You got the right to keep it like you want it. Just write the check in. The house is yours. And I'll say, you people, just put the money in my hand and you won't have to worry about living next to these bunch of stinking niggas.
When I was 9, I had some chickens that I raised as pets. They were the only pets I'd ever had, and I loved them. They used to eat out of my hands when I'd feed them, and follow me around the yard, like a dog does its owner. Mama had a boarding house then, and on the Christmas of my 9th year, she didn't have any money to feed her boarders. So without telling me, she went back and killed my chickens for their Christmas dinner. When I found out, I became ill. I had a raging fever for a week. They despaired for my life, and Mama said the illness was never diagnosed. When I see her now, she's all smiles and honey. She doesn't even know the pain, the unhappiness, and the bitterness she put me through. Sometimes I have to leave the room just to keep from telling her. I'm an orphan, but I think of myself as an orphan, belonging to no one but you. I intend to have all the things I'd never had before. A house of my own, some land, a yard, and in that yard I will plant growing things, fruitful things, a fig tree, pear trees, peach trees, pecan trees, and I'll have a garden and chickens. And I believe I might have all these things because you married me. Before we got married, I used to tell myself she won't marry you no matter how much she says she loves you, because her father will stop it. He's a powerful man and he'll prevail like in this like he does in all things. I adore you, I worship you, and I thank you for marrying me.
6 days! Can you believe it's been just 6 days? And think, only a week ago, the day before my birthday, Tansy was leaving, the hotel design was being rejected and rejected. I found out I was being audited by the IRS. And in my folly, I imagined myself unhappy. He follows me. Everywhere I go, he follows me. He seems to have unlimited time. He has unlimited funds. Brother Bob's life savings, I guess. He takes an interest in my work. He goes into town with me. Just the other day, I don't even know if I can talk about this yet. The other day, I had to take a commuter flight to St. Louis. And, well, Rick wanted to come along. So, I said, okay. Wouldn't be much fun, but... So, Rick came along. Everything started out fine. We're sitting on the airplane, DC-8, I think. He's wearing a little pilot's hat that he bought at the airport, and he's leafing through a bound copy of Red Book. And suddenly the plane starts shaking, the fasten seatbelt lights come on, and people are, in fact, starting to get alarmed. So what happens in the middle of all this? Rick jumps up, stands in the middle of the aisle, and shouts, "Urinate, urinate, or your kidneys will explode!" Honest to God. And I think, well, I mean, I'm really pretty sure some people did. They did. And, I mean, he was wearing his little pilot's hat and that stupid shirt and tie he always wears. And, you know, in a panic situation like that, well. So naturally, the next thing we hear is the pilot's voice saying, "We went through a little turbulence back there, but we're through it now. We'll be landing in St. Louis in 1 minute." So he just sits down with no idea of how many of those people wanted to murder him. I think the only reason he escaped is because the people who really had grounds didn't want to stand up.
Hi, and how was your morning this morning? And welcome to News in the Morning, your friendly morning news program. Now, I have my dramatic review ready for today, but first, ladies, do you long for culture? Then why not send your child to the Neva Jean School for Tap and Ballet on 7th Avenue? Now, Neva Jean will personally instruct your child in tap, ballet, hula hoop, ping pong, and baton. Now, there's only room for 602 more students this year, so hurry up, ladies. And remember, Neva Jean will have your child on the toes in 30 days. Well, last night, the Uptown Dramatic Ladies presented Hamlet by the English playwright, Mr. William Shakespeare. And may I say, good work, girls. Well, Mr. Shakespeare is well known in this area for the production last year of his romantic hit, Romeo and Juliet. The dramatis personae in the play was as follows. Hamlet was charmingly played by Newton Wing, whose lovely mother Martha made that entire costume by hand. Now, Hamlet's sweetheart Ophelia was played by Grace Merritt Smith's niece, Marie, who is visiting us from out of town. Personally, I thought Marie's performance was spotty, but then again, I think the child is too young to travel anyway. The roles of Hamlet's mother and daddy was played by Maud Lovelace, chairman of the Dramatic Ladies. Now, I thought Maud was perfect as Hamlet's father, but as a mother, Maud was a bit too goody. Sorry, Maud. Of course, we all remember Maud's thrilling performance last year as King Lear. Music for the production was applied by Dr. Jimmy John on the piano. Now, during the dueling scenes, Dr. Jimmy John's 10 tiny fingers flew across the keyboard to give us an excited rendition of ever-popular T-Ford 2. Now, Hamlet is a sad play indeed, although I am happy to report that at last night's opening, our own dear Harriet Newley's 92-year-old mother, bless her heart, was heard to laugh out loud several times during the performance. Harriet took her mother home during an intermission. Refreshments were served by the sons and daughters of the Dramatic Ladies, who by themselves prepared a lovely mixture of lemonade and cola, which delighted everyone in the audience except Nettie Singleberry, who left in a hurry. Of course, we are all looking forward to next year's original production, a musical version of Ben-Hur, which has been in rehearsal for 7 years. Break a leg, girls. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And as always, I leave you with a thought for the day. Protect your heart as you would your other vital organs. Bye-bye. Hi! Welcome to Coweta Baptist Church, where everybody's welcome, even Catholics. Hi! How are you? Well, isn't that just the prettiest little dress? Well, I had one just like that years ago. Ain't it great how some people can just wear anything? Well, I thought you were dead! Well, I don't know who told me that, but I sure am glad they were wrong. How are you? How are you? I, Vera Carr, Vice President of the Smut Snatchers of the New Order, in the absence of our President, the Reverend Spikes, do hereby declare this meeting to be officially open. Now, we need to send out a communique from the business department. Now, after all the nasty and vicious things they've said about us in the newspapers, we have decided to become a little more lenient on bilingual education. And we do indeed have a bilingual education program to submit to the tuna schools. The only difference is our program is one of moderation and entails the following Spanish phrases. Habla usted inglés, which is, do you speak English? Cuánto, which is, how much? Donde pedido este cheque, which is, where can I cash my traveler's checks? And finally, we have para recoger un botos equipaje, which is something about getting a boy for your luggage. Now, that is all the Spanish in a red-blooded American ought to feel us on that one. Well, Reverend Spike still isn't here, so I guess I'll just forge ahead. We need a Snout Snack Squad. Well, we do. We need to get out of Book Snatcher Squad. We need to the high school libraries and check out those dictionaries. So we have a new list of words that have been declared misunderstandable to pre-college students. And those words are hot, hooker, coke, clap, deflower, balls, knocker, and nuts. I have a message here from Reverend Spikes. He says he's going to sponsor another record burning. He says for you to bring all your rock and roll. He says do not forget your Buddy Holly and your Little Richard and your Brenda Lee. He says you can leave Elvis at home because he's a fine Southern boy and he'll be forgiven. Now this is Saturday at 8 o'clock at Coweta Baptist Church, so bring your rock and roll, come on out and burn it.
It's Amy, and I'm an alcoholic. Sorry, this little tension breaker for me, not for you. Yeah, well, my marriage ended about 2 years ago. I suspect my drinking had something to do with it. Who am I kidding? A hell of a lot to do with it. During the early years of our marriage, I was very involved with my husband's work. He was a writer. He still is. As he became more successful, I began to feel left out. Maybe I even resented his success. Anyway, I drank a little. Then when I realized my marriage was in trouble, I drank to keep the edge off of the fear. After the divorce, I went into a depression, and naturally I drank to pull myself out of it. A few months ago, I flew to New York for my mother-in-law's funeral. It was the first time I'd seen Michael since our divorce, and naturally I was nervous on the plane. I drank, naturally. Now, I don't know what I quite expected, but I found out that he was perfectly fine and had not had a nervous breakdown. Thank you very much. I said all the wrong things. Liquor can make you do that. After visiting the funeral parlor, I went straight to the nearest bar. I was late for the funeral the next morning and arrived in the middle of the eulogy. I sat bleary-eyed listening to how my mother-in-law had come to this country when she was 10 years old, how in World War II she was interned in a prison camp, and how afterwards she and her husband had made a fast food empire. Then it slowly penetrated my foggy brain that I was listening to the funeral services of an 85-year-old Japanese woman. I never did make it to my mother-in-law's funeral. Listen, I barely made it back to the airport. I was so embarrassed about this. All the way home. In other words, I found 1,000 reasons to drink, and then finally I didn't need any reasons. How did I get here? Well, it wasn't easy. But I needed help, and things changed. I don't know if I can put my marriage back together, but I do know that I've been sober for 4 months. I'm sober today, and I feel good.
When I was 8 years old, I remember somebody taking me to this theater with lots of other children. We'd come to see this production of Peter Pan. And I remember something seemed really weird with the whole production. Odd things kept happening. Like when the children would fly, the ropes would keep breaking. And the children would come thumping to the ground, and they'd have to be carried off by the stagehands. There seemed to be this unlimited supply of stagehands to come and take their place. And then they would. And then the crocodile that chases Captain Hook, it seemed to be a real crocodile. It wasn't an actor. And I remember at one point, the crocodile fell off the stage, crushing several children in the front row. And then, of course, several understudies came and took their places in the audience. And then, from scene to scene, Wendy kept getting fatter and fatter, until finally, by the second act, she was completely immobile, and they had to move her around in this cart. And then the voice. There was this voice. It belonged to the actors playing Peter Pan. Okay, you know in the second act when Tinkerbell drinks some poison that Peter Pan's about to drink in order to save him, and then Peter Pan turns to the audience and says, Tinkerbell's going to die because not enough people believe in fairies. But maybe if the audience claps really hard, Tinkerbell won't die. And so immediately the audience begins to clap, and I remember I was clapping so hard, and so long, and I remember looking down and my palms hurt and my hands were bleeding because I was clapping so hard and so long, and then all of a sudden Peter Pan turns to the audience and says, "That wasn't enough. You didn't clap hard enough. Tinkerbell's dead." Well, then everyone started to cry, and then Tinkerbell, Peter Pan, stomps off the stage, and she refuses to finish with the rest of the play, and they would bring the curtain down, and only no one could see anything because everyone was crying, and no one could see anything through the tears. So finally, the ushers had to help the children out of the aisles and out into the street, and I don't think any of us were the same after that experience. I mean, I know it certainly turned me against theater, but more damagingly, Doctor, I think it warped my sense of life because what's worth trying if Tinkerbell's just going to die?
This is Bertha Buemiller, and I want to talk, and I want you to listen. I said I want to talk, and I want you to listen. I have tried to think what I have done to deserve this life I lead. A husband who spent 4 years in prison for robbing a filling station of $47. Then there are my psycho twins, Charlene and Stanley, who you know to no end have caused me no end of grief. And now my youngest Jody, never to be seen without a pack of dogs around him. They follow him to that school, they follow him home, they follow him everywhere. And last week, I nearly had to whoop that child. He wanted to take him to the First Baptist Church. We have a very serious situation on our hands. Jody is something bad as a drug habit. Jody has a dog habit. He has a psychological addiction to them dogs. And you, Petey Fisk, you are a puppet pusher. Now, I will put up with Shep, Woofy, Trixie, Bingo, Blossom, Nothing, Dolly, and Thunder. But if you bring that little half rat, half chihuahua, half whatever you've been talking about on that radio, I swear, if you bring that dog into my house, Petey Fisk, they'll have to drag the river to find your body. And I'm going to call my Aunt Pearl. I will call my Aunt, I swear to God, I'll call my Aunt Pearl. And I'll get her makeup back to them bitter pills. I mean business. I'm as serious as a stroke. I will not be the mother of an addict, whether he's on opium or basset hound. Now, Stanley, don't you let them dogs in this house. Get out of here. Big Dolly, come on, honey, get off that chair. You know better than that. I just cleaned this house and look at this mess. Oh, Dolly, come on, honey. You girls know better than that. What is that? Bingo, you come back here and you take that outside back where you came from. Come on, honey, get out the chair. Whoopee! You come back in this house, you'll have to have drugs to go the pain. Now, I have had it.
Tell you that my father loved animals? Well, he did. During his last winter, 9 years ago, there were several snowstorms, and the birds were so frightened and cold that they sat by the kitchen door. Father went to the barn and came back with grain for each of them. Father doesn't live with us now. He lives in a new house. Though it was built in an hour, it's better than this. If we only knew that he knew we loved him, perhaps we could stop crying. The birds that Father rescued were frolicking in his grave when I went there yesterday. Nature must be too young to feel, or many years too old. His heart was pure and terrible, and I think no other like it exists. I'm glad there's immortality. I would have tested it myself before entrusting him. Home. Home is so far away from home since my father died. A year after my father died, Mother had a stroke in her room. She never walked again. Mother's death almost stunned my spirit. She slipped from our fingers like a flake gathered by the wind. and is now part of the drift called the infinite. You see, we were never intimate as mother and children while she was our mother. But lines in the same ground meet by tunneling. And it was when she became our child the affection came. Hold your parents tenderly, for the world will seem a strange and lonely place when they are gone.
Mr. Cornell, I have tried to be neighborly, I have tried to be friendly, and I have tried to be cordial. I don't know what it is you were trying to be. That first night I was appreciative that you carried my trunk up 5 flights of stairs. The fact that they slipped and fell 5 flights and smashed to pieces was not your fault. But I didn't appreciate the message you painted on my front steps. I do not accept gifts from a man I hardly know, especially canned goods. This has got to stop, Mr. Cornell. I can do very well without you leaving little almond Hershey bars in my mailbox. They melted yesterday and now I've got 3 gooey letters from home with nuts in them. And I can do without you sneaking into my room after I go to work and painting my balcony without telling me. I stepped out there yesterday and my slippers are still glued to the floor. And I can do without you watching me get on the bus every morning through your high-powered telescope. You got me so nervous this morning I got on the wrong bus. In short, Mr. Cornell, leave me alone!
Help me, Billy. Please, help me. They're coming to make me leave. Please let me stay here. They'll listen to you, Billy. You see, they give me pills, so I won't feel anything. Now, I don't mind not feeling anything, so long as I can remember feeling. And I can remember in this apartment. I stand over here, in this corner, and I remember laughing so hard. Doubled up at something Ronnie did, Artie said. And over here, where I used to iron, when I could iron, I would iron right here. And the buttons, say on button-down shirts, could make me cry. And over here at this window, I would fix me a rye and ginger pick-me-up and watch the lights go on in the Empire State Building and feel so tender. I don't mind not feeling, so long as I can be in a place where I can remember feeling. Oh, I'm sorry. My house is a mess. Let me straighten up. I can do that, Billy. I'm a housewife. I still love you. Do you love me? Does anybody love me?
For me, well, it was the most important day of my life. I made sure everything is happening before or after it. I remember it was lunchtime, and I was sitting at my desk, and Mr. Knowlski, my advertising manager, he came bursting into the office. He said, "Turn on the radio," said the president had been shot in Dallas. Well, none of us believed him. And Carrie's radio started up, and the newscaster was saying that the president had been shot, and he was rushed to a hospital. Right then and there, all the phones in the office began to ring. We all stayed and listened around the radio, waiting for some news. And finally it came that the president was out of danger. He was going to be okay. And the bells began to ring. Every church bell in New York. They said he's dead. The president is dead. I remember the next night walking down Broadway, and all the theaters were dark. And all those stores that were carrying colored pictures of Kennedy in the windows, they were all closed. I thought everyone loved him. I guess everyone did. All but one.
I hate blind dates. And I was so embarrassed because Mama gave me this old mink stole, which I stuffed in my purse when I got out of sight. I got to Betty Simon's house. Betty answered the door and called out, "Hey Harvey, here's Natalie." My date appeared. The smile he came to the door with disappeared and changed into disappointment when he saw me. Well, I was planning on smiling back until I caught that look. There he was, the enemy. Anyone who gives me that look is the enemy. If you give boys that look before they give you that look, then you got the upper hand. But I was too late. Bang, bang! He got me before I got him. Hello, Harvey, I said, moving in for the attack. Well, I was going to watch Indian on TV tonight, but I never actually thought I'd be going out with him. Bang, bang, I got him. I whipped Mama's first still out of the purse. Yikes! He screamed. What's that? A dead cat, I said, and I wear it to keep away evil spirits. But apparently it's not working.
You ain't teaching nothing. You're just selling. Yeah, that's what you're doing. Selling. Ass. Stop. I can't stop, man. This here's supposed to be my break, man. Can't you understand that? I've been in 5 schools and 6 foster homes. And out on the street dealing crack. My sister been busting her butt to give me this chance. To support me. To give me my opportunity on account I got brains. Brains! Every school I've been in has told me I got brains. I can make something of myself if I get the chance. Well, this here's supposed to be my chance. So why don't you teach me some of them big ideas, you know? And how to get them down instead of trying to sell me some big shot image deal. You some big shot image, ain't you? Ain't you? You're not no real teacher. You're just shining it all. You're just some image big shot.
Don't tell me you done gone and messed up at that college with some white teacher with that bad temper of yours. It don't matter what she's shoving. You got to make it there. Got to. You hear me? Because messing up with me is one thing. But messing up your diploma, that's something else. A diploma is our ticket out. What you mean, nothing? Well, what you think you is anyhow, boy? Who do you think you ever gonna be? Is you gonna get that ticket out? And what I gonna be? Nothing? I have that bus in this butt, 2 shifts, some toilet attendant, my face in it, hands in it, nose in it, ain't even no window in that Lakeshore Hotel's ladies' room. And you telling me she's making you nothing? Have my pay on your back and in your mouth, you old big boy.
To primary school students and all Americans, now the time has happened for returning me to homeland. Great, big, happy, I say to you I am, having been for here to be so long. One question, all the time my 2 ears are hearing of me, how much am I liking this country here? And to this, my tongue wags, which, in my country stocking, means how is 1 foot to wear of 6 boots. But much fun I get here. Student friends, all merry and fine. Always they are making the friendly hello laughter at me. And they have the games all playing, like 52 card pickup, and bet they can hit softer, which do I win always. And most of, I like throw the lizard. All is great fun, and much most little mouths of steel and wall bottoms everywhere. When we feed them the paper clips and other metals, then up belt by a pop. Giant fun. I go now. Bye.
Hello, Charlotte. Listen, it's vital that I stay at your house tonight. You've got to make your mom let me stay over. Don't ask me to explain. Oh, well listen, my parents think you are a bad influence on me, too. Okay, you're out of my life, Charlotte. You are herstory. You are the crumb de la crumb. Hey, don't eyeball me, you speck. I'm trying to use the phone. And don't touch that cage. That's my parakeet in there. Listen, it's vital that I talk to the radio shrink. My name is Agnes. I'm 15. My parents locked me out of the house today. I want to find out if that's legal. I'm currently in the ladies' room at an IHOP spec. Hello, Dr. Casorla. Listen, doctor, for years I've been coming home from school, and no one would be there. I'd let myself in. But today I come home, and they changed the locks on me. Yeah, maybe it was something I did. I didn't say it was innocent. Hey, I'm using the phone, you IHOP spec. See, my dad's a scientist, and I went to his lab to get some money, and there's this glob of this bioplasm just, like, floating there in this dish, and I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was sibling rivalry, but
I spit into it, and of course my dad has this mad scientist attack. Well, yeah, I thought about calling the hotline for runaways, but I don't know if they'll take me. I'm a throwaway. Well, I've got grandparents, but the only thing we have in common is that we're all carbon-based life forms. Hey! Where's my parakeet? Where's Conway Tweety? Don't look at me with those blueberry syrup mustaches. IHOP specs.
I want to go to the Piggly Wiggly and then home. Nowhere else, you hear? And I am nobody's fool hook. I can see that speedometer just as well as you can. My husband, rest his soul, well, he taught me how to run a car. I still remember everything he said, no matter what my son says. Well, slow down, you're speeding. What do you mean we're only going 19 miles per hour? I don't care if it is 35. I like to go slower. The slower you go, the more you save on gas. What do you mean we're barely moving? Well, I am the one that owns this car. My son may think that I am losing my abilities, but I am in control of what goes on in this car. Where are you going? We are going to the Piggly Wiggly, and to get there you have to go on Highland Avenue. I want to go the way I always go. Go back. I said go back. Go back this minute or I will get out and walk to the Piggly Wiggly. I have been driving to the Piggly Wiggly since the day they opened it and put it up for business. And this is not the way. Go back. Go back this minute. Go. Oh, okay, well there it is. Now you watch out for that boy with the cart and park in the shade. The sun fades the upholstery. Give me the keys. Now you wait right here and don't you move. I'll be watching you from the Piggly.
Well, all right, I'll tell you, but it's not a very pretty story. I grew up right here in Houston, Texas. I was pretty, I was a national champion bud tongue twirler, and I only dated football players. I was Miss Popular and the typical American girl. First boy I went to stay with was Bobby Joe Barton. Bobby was state champion high school quarterback. Since I was champion too, it was only natural that we should go steady. Gee, that was swell. Till one day, after football practice, somebody tackled Bobby and he just didn't get up. I mean, he was dead. So then I started dating his best friend, Terry Lee Walsh. Now Terry played left guard and been the one who accidentally killed Bobby during football practice. Well, that was swell. Till Terry died at the game with Lubbock for state quarterfinals in Austin. Spontaneous concussion. My senior year in high school, I started dating Tiny Walker. Now, Tiny played right guard and been tackled lots of times by Bobby, who was a whole lot bigger than him. And he was small and powerful. But when Tiny died, I just stopped dating football players altogether. I felt like I was a jinx on him, you know. I even stopped my twirling. I still date, but now I only date musicians and debaters. They don't die on you like those football players. Well, I told you it wasn't a very pretty story.
Barry and I said goodbye in the middle of the street, and then I walked away. I turned there 4 steps away to goodbye until Barry got smaller and smaller, till I came to a part where the street light gave out and he vanished completely. I gave one more wave though, just in case Barry was looking. I came home a week later and I saw a slip of paper under the door, and it said, "Please call the police station." So I did, and they said that this was hard to tell you, but Barry was dead. I knew it was a mistake, but Barry was gone. And everyone at home was smiling so bravely for my sake. I told him I wasn't going to the funeral. I didn't want to see Barry dead. I went into his room. He still seemed sane. Must have been the yellow curtains. I went into his closet. I could still smell Barry that hung on the clothes in the closet. I held the sweater up to my face. Barry, if you can hear me. Everyone is seeming to be crying, but I can't seem to cry. I'm sorry about the time I promised to take you fishing and change my mind.
Don't be lonely, babe. The room was completely dark, except for a small light on the ceiling. It would never go away, because it was Bear's light.
Do you know what my parents think? They think it's a big deal to get a high school diploma. They do, a big deal. They never made it past grade school, neither of them. So they have all these moron-type notions about all the great strides that I've made. I'll be the first one in my family to graduate from high school. Now that's something, isn't it? Dream come true. My smart son, my father calls me. God, they're so stupid. I come home and they just beam when they see me. They just beam. You know what they're like. You've seen them. They're lumps. Everything in their world is lovely and nice. And you look right outside our home and you look right at an oil refinery. And you smell the stink that they call air. And everything is lovely and nice because my dad can walk home for lunch. How lucky can one man be? He walks home beaming and my mom just waits for him. I knew they were stupid. All I ever wanted to do was make sure I didn't grow up to be lovely and nice and stupid like my parents. Well, I did it. I'm not as stupid as my parents. So that only leaves one question. So what? I mean, I hate school. All it did was teach me to feel bad. All my education did was make me realize I'm never going to go anywhere and I'm never going to amount to anything. I should have stayed stupid like my parents. Only now, it's too late.
Dad, remember my very first Little League game? You and Mom were up in the stands watching, and I was down on second base. And I had to go to the bathroom real bad. Well, I was too scared and embarrassed to say anything, so I peed my pants. Later on the sidelines, I thought I could hide it by sitting in the dirt. That only made things worse. And by now, all the other kids were laughing and making fun of me. When we got home, I ran straight up into my bedroom and laid across my bed and started crying. That's when you came in. You weren't much for crying, and you said that it was all right, that by tomorrow all the kids at school would have forgotten about it. That's when I told you I wasn't going to school, that there was no way I could face them. That's when you got real close to me and you kissed me on the forehead. And you said it was okay. If I didn't want to go to school tomorrow, I didn't have to go. I've never loved any one person more than I loved you at that moment. What happened to that? Was it just me? I mean, God knows I've screwed so many things up in my life. College, my marriage, all the jobs I've had. So many beginnings I can't even remember. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry that I've been such a disappointment to you. I love you, Dad. And I need you.
And good evening to you. Oh, how I'm proud to be here on behalf of a more beautiful America. Now I ask you as Americans to look around you. Do you see something that is pleasant to the eye? Are you beholding a thing of beauty? Well, if not, plant a tree, a shrub, or a bush. Now I've traveled all over America with my wife, and wherever we go, when we see bits of paper on the ground, candy wrappers for example, well my wife, she picks them up and she saves those candy wrappers. Why, did you know that the average American throws away 4 pounds of junk a day? That's 120 pounds of junk a month, which is the average weight of an American teenage boy. Now you wouldn't discard an American teenage boy now, would you? So that means, in the average year, we just throw away 75,800,400 pounds of trash. That's the average weight of Mississippi. And speaking of trash, the multitude of signs that gulf and choke our highways. Signs that say things like railroad crossing and stop. I say we get rid of all these signs. Now here at the White House, my wife and I have planted a tree, a shrub, or a bush that we will enjoy for many years to come, I hope. So in conclusion, a kind word for me is a kind word for America. God bless it and me.
Damn! I have to say that out loud because I promised Lorraine that I wouldn't put any curse in this book that we're writing. And besides, we borrowed this typewriter from the Cricket. That's Miss Ryan, the librarian. And if she came across any cursing, she'd probably faint. Miss Ryland's a little on the fat side. She wears these tight skirts that make her nylon stockings rub together that make this scratchy sound. That's why the kids call her the Cricket. The library is so quiet that if you listen very closely, you can hear every move she makes. Shh. Anyways, what we're writing about is this old guy that we nicknamed the Pig Man. Lorraine and I are collaborating since you might say we're both equally guilty about what happened. She's probably panting to get at the typewriter right now, so better hurry up. But I think you should know that the reason I got involved with the Pig Man is that I hate school. Hate school. School so much that my first year at Franklin High, they called me the bathroom bomber. They used to call me the bathroom bomber because I used to set up bombs in the boys' bathrooms. You see, what I do is take a firecracker and mold a piece of clay around it so it would hold a candle, attached to a fuse, and 8 minutes later, wham! No matter where I was in the building, I could hear that blast. I sure would have loved to see the faces of the guys who got surprised in the jump.
I came home and they were sitting by the TV watching As the World Turns, some other crap like that. And they pretend like I wasn't even there because they know what gets to me. Do you smell a nobody in this room? My father says to my mama. See, I went home and they ignored me because they know it drives me crazy. It's not like I haven't been missing for 10 days. So I clear my throat, and my mama turns up the TV, and my dad pops open another beer can. So I do what I always do when I want to get their attention. I run up there and I kick in that TV set, and I bend them TV antennas like little rabbit ears. And I yell, TV is for fat and stupid Russian morons. And my dad picks me up into the air, and he throws me on the ground. You know, and his face is close to mine, and I can smell the booze on his breath. You know, and he's calling me a name, but at least he's talking to me. And my mother's all by the TV picking up pieces of glass and crying. So my dad starts hitting me, and my mama starts throwing glass at me, and they're yelling, "This will teach you to come home. This will teach you to come home. This will teach you to come home." You see, I went home and they were watching As the World Turns, and they pretend like I wasn't even there. So I had to let them know, you know?
Most of the teachers in my high school were made in a cardboard factory and shipped in from Idiot City, USA. Typical of this was Mr. Douglas Blair. I had Mr. Blair for history in my junior year. He appeared to be in his 40s, and he had the shape and the walk of a middle-aged woman. His voice was more of a whine, Although he was old enough to be my father, he looked like my mother and talked like my sister. On the first day of class, he made the ultimate mistake. He smiled. Then some guys in the back started goofing off. Mr. Blair said, "Now boys." I don't remember what he said after that. It didn't matter. Now boys were the words of a man who thought he was dealing with human beings rather than high school juniors. Then he said, "Order please." Some guy in the back yelled, "Coca-Cola and some fries." Then he said, "I'm going to be passing out some." Another guy yelled, "He's passing out! Quick, get him some air!" "Yeah," another guy yelled, "throw him out the window." Now, this was not our only problem. Mr. Blair never looked up from his desk. Now, we had Jack Schroeder in our class. Jack was an expert at throwing his voice. So every day, 4 or 5 guys would cut class, and Jack would answer a roll call for him. Mr. Blair got even with us. He quit.
Fine points for putting up first class privet, and it's no job for an amateur. For example, old man Clark and his 2 boys. Old man Clark, he's 97 if he's a day. Lives over in the holler with his boys. Now they thought that my price for building a privet was too high. So they said they'd go build it themselves. Now, I was walking by, and I saw those 2 boys out there building the privet, and I just know they was gonna have problems with it. It looked alrighty, but they didn't anchor hook. Here's what happened. Halloween come round, darker than pitch, and old man Clark out gets privet. When 2 fellas, out for no good, decided they were gonna upset the privet with old man Clark sitting in it. Now old man Clark, he starts a yelling, and his boys go out. But since it was painted bright red, they couldn't see. And then old man Clark got confused because he's a yelling, and his boys come up running. As soon as they get there, old man Clark slipped and fell. After that, them boys never did go around him. In fact, ain't no one been around old man Clark in 9 or 4 years. Phew.
One night there were some moths, a bunch of moths, and in the distance they could see a candle, just one candle in the window of a big house. Now the moths were bothered by this candle. They wanted to be with it, but none of them understood it or knew what it was. So the leader of the moths sent one of them out to bring back some information about this light. When he returned and reported, the leader told him that he hadn't understood anything about the candle. So a second moth went to the house. He touched the flame with the tip of his wings, but the heat drove him off. He came back and reported, but the leader still wasn't satisfied. So a third moth went to the house. He saw the candle flickering in the window and fell in love with it. He crashed against the glass and finally found a way inside. He threw himself on the flame and embraced it completely. His whole body became red with flame. The leader of the moths who was watching saw the flame in the moth and turned to the other moths and says he has learned what he wanted to know, but he's the only one who understands. And that's the way I felt about love. I couldn't explain it to anybody. Not until tonight. Not until you.
Death always brings one suddenly face to face with life. Johnny, my son, lay dying of a brain tumor for 15 months. He was only in his 17th year. I never kissed him goodnight without wondering whether I would see him alive in the morning. Like some thief, Death took Johnny one morning at 11:02. I reached through that ugly, transparent raincoat, that curtain, of the oxygen machine. I held Johnny, and I slowly felt the warmth leave his body. I think a lot now of how I'd wish we'd been able to fulfill Johnny's last wishes. A talk with the teacher. A dance friend. A visit to Harvard. They were all so simple. God, I wish we'd loved Johnny more when he were alive. Oh, I loved Johnny so much, and he knew that. But, I mean, more. People always tell me that Johnny's funeral service is something that they will never forget. I sat there in all that stillness, and I suddenly became aware of all the flowers. I'd never seen so many beautiful flowers. And then the preacher began to read Johnny's prayer. The last thing that Johnny had ever written. Almighty God, forgive me for my disbelief. And if thou art truly in the heavens, then accept my gratitude for all your gifts. And I shall try to find the good part. I tried not to cry, but I couldn't.
I am a lousy driver, just lousy. And the first time I drove downtown, it was terrible. But it wasn't my fault, it was my husband's. You see, he put the car in the garage backwards. Now that shocked the heck out of my map. I went right out the wrong end, that put me on the wrong street, going the wrong way on a one-way street that wasn't going my way. And everybody was coming towards me, except for this one other woman. I loved her. She was following me and dragging sections of a fence along with her. Well, there's these people that were yelling nasty things at us. One guy, he leaned out of his car and yelled, "Hey, lady, you ought to have your license taken away." And I said, "Shut up, I haven't got one." Well, at the first stop sign, we got out of our cars to discuss what to do. Now, I suggested that if we both back up, then no one would notice. But there's one problem with that. We have to face all those other stupid drivers for blocks. And I mean, how long can you blow kisses and drive? Well, it worked for her. She backed around a corner. I backed over an officer's motorcycle. Boy, did those guys get mad. You know, you really thought he would have owned a stupid thing or something. Well, he was on it. Anyways, I immediately jumped out of my car and offered to put his gun back together. But I don't care how nice you are to those guys, you're gonna get a ticket. But he didn't write one because his arms were broken. Both of them.
Morning, all of you. I am your new teacher. My name is Miss Margarita. You must memorize it. It is necessary for me to point out the importance of education. Let's face it, none of you are here of your own choice. You are here because your parents made you. The reason you are sitting at your desks without being able to choose is because school is a second home. Did any of you here choose to be born? No. Well, school is the same thing. You were forced in and you cannot get out. You have no choice while you were sitting there. You were forced in and you cannot get out unless Miss Margarita tells you to. And how do you get Miss Margarita's favor? Obedience is the greatest of all qualities. Memorize this. The deserving ones. Who are they? They are those who obey. The deserving ones. Who are they? They are those who obey. You do what Miss Margarita tells you to, when Miss Margarita tells you. And do not think you can go and complain to the principal, because the principal is on Miss Margarita's side. He believes in Miss Margarita's way. Let us sing, let us pray Miss Margarita's way. We shall obey. Do not ever go against me, or you will never get out of here.
All right. In this dream, I'm giving a cocktail party in honor of the Peruvian singer Ima Sumac. This is strange because I have never met Miss Sumac,
and it seems unlikely that I would be giving her a party. The doorbell rings. A guest. I go to the door, and there is the actress Ava Gardner. Miss Ava Gardner, I'd like you to meet Miss Ima Sumac. But Miss Sumac demands everyone be introduced by their first names only. So I quickly say, Ava Ima, Ima Ava. And then the doorbell rings again. The next guest is the former Israeli ambassador, Abba Eben. I keep things on a first-name basis. Abba Ava, Abba Ima. The doorbell rings again, and it's Charlie Chaplin's wife, Una O'Neill. I bring her into the room. Una Abba, Una Ava, Una Ima. Then the doorbell rings again. This time it's another man, Ugo Betti, the former Italian playwright. I'm getting upset. Ugo Abba, Ugo Ava, Ugo Una, Ugo Ima. Arrive when the doorbell rings again, and it's two lovely actresses, Ona Munson and Ida Lupino. And before I can introduce them, Aga Khan enters. Well, I say, we're all here. But Miss Sumac says, introduce. I start to cry, and then I say, Aga Ona, Aga Ida, Aga Ava, Aga Abba, Aga Una, Aga Ugo, Aga Ima. And then I get hysterical and I wake up.
I mean, like I've got nothing against working. Nothing at all. Working's cool. It's a good thing to do if you want to generate extra income. Like some jobs just don't make it. They make you feel like a stupid dork instead of a legitimate worker. For instance, I saw the sign in McDonald's window for help. You know, like it said managerial positions open. Sure, like if you're lucky you get to be a manager after 5 years of French and fries. Anyway, I figured it'd be a good way to make some quick bucks, right? Make some extra dough and be able to take Sue and Walter someplace halfway decent for a change. So I fill out this stupid application that's as long as your arm, and they hire me. Now this first day, they give me like this outfit to wear. It's a clown outfit, the color of baby junk, and a cap that makes you look like some monkey or something. I asked the manager if I can wear my own stuff, my jeans and stuff, and he says that isn't the McDonald's image. The manager, brother, he's about 5 feet tall and weighed in at 250 pounds, like a living testimonial to a diet of Big Macs, monument of fat. It's an army camp and runs around screaming ladies and gents. Far out, man. I figured like I'll be tossing burgers and junk, right? No way. Since I'm the new guy, I get all the low and lame stuff, like cleaning the bathrooms and mopping the floor with this stuff that would take the skin off of elephants. So I'm doing this stuff and mopping the floor, and Sue Ann walks in. I try to be cool and like tip my cap, real cool like, but she goes and slips and falls on her butt. Then Mr. Lardo starts yelling at me, so I quit and sent their stupid outfit back in a trash bag. Sue Ann hasn't called me. The guy's got to be careful where he takes a job.
I've never really talked about this before, Clara, but 6 months after we were married, Laura left me. I don't know why she did. I never did. And, you know, she said she didn't know. I asked her if she wanted a divorce, and she said no. She just wanted to go off by herself for a while. And when I came home from work the next day, she left a note saying she had gone to Dallas. She never called or wrote after she left or would answer any of my letters. Even when she got real sick. And I heard about it from her mama. I went to see her. And her mama would say, Slim's here. He wants to see you. Don't you want to see him? She said she wouldn't answer, just shake her head no. And you know, all those nights, everybody thought I was sitting by her bed. I wasn't. I sat outside the door to her bedroom. And then the night before she died, she asked to see me. And I went into her room and she said, please forgive me. And I said, there's nothing to forgive you for. And she said, yes, there was. And then she held my hand. She said that she was tired and asked if I would stay while she slept. I said I would. And I felt her hand grow cold in mine. And I tried to keep it warm. You know, I've done a lot of thinking since then. And I wondered I wondered what went wrong, and if I failed her, and how I failed her. And it came to me tonight that I can never answer those questions. That right or wrong, I did the best I could. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't know what else to do, but just what I did. You know, I was just happy enough to be there.